In the past, there was a certain shame about being a spinster.
Nowadays, single women have busier and more fulfilled lives than single men.
Oh, poor thing, he, she is all on their own.
Oh, I can't be seen as this failure because my marriage or relationship has ended.
So you could even do a friends with benefits thing, can't you? Let's be honest.
It is estimated that 45% of women aged 25 to 44 will be single by the year 2030, according to a recent study by Morgan Stanley.
Is this a personal choice, or is it something that is thrust upon them?
Societal and cultural norms are constantly evolving and changing, no more so than in recent years.
Expectations around marriage and family life have evolved. Women today may prioritise their own personal and professional fulfilment over traditional family structures.
With increasing access to educational and career opportunities, women may choose to focus more on their professional growth and personal development rather than entering into marriage early.
I think now women definitely have the option, don't they? They have a choice, whereas back in the day they had no choice. And then they did have some choice, but society said that you should get married quite young and have your family quite young.
Yeah.
But nowadays I think there are many options open to women.
Yeah, and I think even society's viewpoint has changed on this a little bit. Women are maybe told to wait and focus on themselves and pursue a career.
Yes, so it's gone full circle,
areas, yeah, maybe not all over the world entirely,
No.
but particularly in certain parts of America, I think it's really not frowned upon exactly, but I do think women are dissuaded from entering committed relationships so early and settling down so early at the expense of their own career.
Women's increasing financial independence allows them to support themselves economically. This autonomy can lead to a preference for independence in other aspects of life, including relationships.
Yeah, I mean, historically, how many women have entered relationships because of the financial need to do so? And I'm sure that still happens in some situations today. But again, it comes down to this idea of choice. There wasn't even an option for women to get an education, get a career, historically. So I think it's only good that women now do have some autonomy over when and how they enter relationships and who they enter relationships with, and not feeling like they need to in order to just not live on the streets or to not be a financial burden to their parents. Many women are choosing to delay marriage until later in life. This delay can be attributed to a desire to explore personal goals, establish a career, and gain a better understanding of oneself before committing to a long-term relationship. I think it's always good to feel like if the need was ever there, you could take care of yourself, you have a skill set or an education that would allow you to do it. Because what happens if, heaven forbid, your husband or partner gets sick, or something happens to them and they pass away young, or, you know, maybe they just leave you? You don't then have the skills to go out and have options to look after yourself.
And also I think delaying marriage gives you a chance to actually look around for a bit and make sure you have found the right partner.
Let's face it, how many of us in our 30s, 40s, 50s are the same people that we were in our late teens, early 20s? I mean, you hope that you will grow together, and that does happen, but sometimes you need a bit of time to figure yourself out first before you know who you are and what kind of relationship you want to be in.
Attitudes to relationships and marriage have shifted over the recent years particularly.
Some women find that being single contributes to their emotional well-being. They can avoid the potential stresses and conflicts associated with romantic relationships and focus on maintaining a positive mental and emotional state. You know, I think in terms of separation, we're told to look at that as a failure, whereas actually that relationship might have given you so many beautiful memories, successes. You might have done so much growth in that relationship that just because it's now the time to part doesn't mean that that relationship was a failure. And I think that's why women are kind of more comfortable with the idea of not necessarily having to jump into another relationship straight away. Oh, I can't be seen as this failure because my marriage or relationship has ended. Actually, I'm going to take some time to absorb what that was before I then move on again. I'm going to be single for a while.
It's okay to be single, it's fine. It's not like, oh, poor thing, he, she is all on their own. I think it's more empowering to be single now. I think people feel more independent, they can make their own choices, decisions.
Yeah, I think it's good that people are starting to see being single as an opportunity rather than just a sad situation.
In the past, there was a certain shame about being a spinster.
The male equivalent of that word bachelor often came with the word eligible.
Yeah.
Spinster obviously had very negative connotations, and people would often pity or feel embarrassed for that woman on her behalf.
Yeah, assuming that all women wanted to be married and have children.
Because what else could there possibly be?
Exactly, and look after a man.
Yeah.
Relationships take time and energy. The burden of emotional support can often often fall disproportionately on women. Studies have shown that women spend twice the amount of time compared to men with caregiving and doing household chores. There's also evidence to suggest that women may have to contribute more of the time and energy to a relationship.
I do think that there's a feeling when you are a woman of needing to be the emotional support of the people around you, which can very often come at the expense of your own emotional needs. And that can also extend beyond just your partner to children and parents.
I was going to say exactly that. Yes, it's not just your partner, but it does extend upwards and downwards in the family.
I totally understand why it would be easier for a woman to say, I don't have the energy to give that at the moment.
Yes.
I need to keep that for myself. It's not selfish at all. In fact, it's the opposite of selfish, because you're not putting someone in a position where they might be depending on you and you're not able to provide whatever it is they need. Past negative experiences in relationships, such as breakup or divorces, can influence a woman's decision to stay single. I think we all know people, not just women, but people who are choosing to stay single because they had a horrendous experience, which I do understand, especially if there was some element of abuse or something really awful happened.
If you're hurt, you don't want to be hurt badly again.
No, and you don't want to take that into any next relationship that you maybe might have. You need to make sure that whatever you've been through is
resolved in some way.
In some way.
Yeah, that you've worked through it and that you're starting afresh.
Yeah, exactly.
The rise of technology and social media has changed how people connect and form relationships. Online platforms provide a wide array of social connections, making it easier for individuals to meet people and explore different relationship dynamics. These can be more flexible, and you do not have to be looking for a long-term relationship. So you could even do a friends with benefits thing, can't you? Let's be honest. You could still be single and just have a get-together occasionally for, fun.
Whilst the social stigma is dying down, I think there is still a stigma around women who want to be casual and maybe want to have multiple partners and things like that. And I think it's important that we continue to question why that is, why that's there for women and not there for men. What's wonderful about the opportunities for women nowadays is you have the opportunity to define for yourself what's acceptable and what's not acceptable and move away from these ideas of the past. It's interesting, studies show that nowadays single women have busier and more fulfilled lives than single men and tend to be happier than single men. I think that's kind of against what we would necessarily expect historically and culturally, but women who are single tend to have more friends, they go out more, they do more things than a single man necessarily would in the same situation.
Because I think the perception is single men are having a woohoo life all the time.
Yeah, which it doesn't sound like from our research that's the norm for single men.
No. Dreams about meeting Prince Charming or a knight in shining armour and living happily ever after may no longer ring true for many modern day women.
I do think young women, in particular young girls, are kind of sold this idea by fairy tales and movies about your happily ever after and your Prince Charming, especially like, my generation and older. I think, those stories are changing now a bit.
Yes, of course, we've been sold this idealised fantasy, and you have to work at relationships. They don't just happen and stay on the same level forever and ever.
Yes.
And they develop, and there is more beyond that initial attraction and passion.
It's quite funny how the main characters in those movies and stories were always beautiful and handsome, the handsome prince, the beautiful princess, and that doesn't always fit how every little girl or boy is feeling. I think a lot of people kind of feel a bit lost when they think, those stories aren't for me. We're starting to move towards people being able to look all different ways in movies and diversifying exactly who we see as these kind of main characters. And also, like you say, showing the hardships of relationships as well, because it's not always like you meet, you clock eyes, you fall in love and then everything's perfect forever. In fact, that's probably hardly ever how it goes. So Singles Awareness Day was on February the 15th, and it's kind of like a counterpoint to the romance of the day before. Couples have their day, and then singles have their day to celebrate their lifestyle the day after. Do you observe Single Awareness Day or any other day that focuses attention on and raises awareness around the positive aspects of being single? Let us know.
If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and subscribe to us on YouTube.